Welcome to the Brown County Hour.
Coming to you from the legendary Hills of Brown,
where the plum purple haze,
the one nature herself drapes over the hills and hollers,
inspires local characters, artists, and nature lovers.
It's as though the hills themselves conspire to create a beauty and culture in the heart of Indiana.
Sit for a spell and hear the music.
Tall tales,
true stories,
and current goings-on.
Brought to you by folks who still know how to sit by a fire in winter
and swim buck naked in summer.
Welcome to episode 76 of the Brown County Hour. This is Leora Grubbs.
And Dave Seastrom, along with the rest of the crew. This month, we're celebrating Brown County legends and national recording artists, the Stringbean String Band. We had Robbie, Bowden, and Dave Gore in our studio recently, and we'll share that interview mixed in with some of the material from our Elders project. While they were here, we recorded 3 songs that we'll share in the first segment of the show. We'll also share an interview conducted by Bruce Klug that was recorded in August of 2011.
Our first segment begins with an interview with the Stringbean Band, followed by their tune written by Slats Klug.
It's my pleasure to introduce Robbie, Bowden, and Dave Gore. We've just had a wonderful conversation with them about the Elders Project, but they are our musical feature for the month, and we're going to talk about the origin of the Stringbean String Band, and they're going to perform a couple of numbers from those days. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thanks.
Good to be here.
Thanks.
I won't ask years necessarily, but when did you guys meet? Like probably in grade school or some? I think I heard stories of high school or something.
My first recollection is we got together at a Boy Scout
hike,
camp out. We were getting ready to go to Camp Wapahani on the west side of Bloomington. And we got actually kind of met in the Boy Scouts. So
yeah, we were on a hike.
Yeah.
So you're both brave, clean, and reverent.
Oh, yes.
We were.
Yeah, we were.
I don't know about now.
So, yeah, we had a lot of fun. We had good times in the Boy Scouts.
Dave had just joined the Scouts. I'd been in for a couple of years. And what really brought us together was that we both liked Mad Magazine. And we started throwing these quotes back and forth at each other.
Alfred E. Newman.
Oh, yeah.
The John Martin department. That's Mr. Phonebone. And then we became good friends and went, through school. We used to go into the old Pine Room over on Gould and Van Buren, and they had a jukebox with country music on it, and we would sit there, get a couple of Cokes. And
they'd let us sit in the corner of the bar.
Uh-huh.
But the bar, if I remember right, was divided. There was a restaurant side for the families and a bar side. It was all one room.
Right.
But it was 2 different doors.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
But we could go in there and hang out, and we used to go in and listen to country music on the jukebox and then try and emulate a lot of that.
Tell us the origin story of Stringbean and some of the history of what evolved.
Well, one of the gals in the Cherry Hill Singers, Nancy Stouffer, had gone out to California because her family was out there. She went to high school with Dave and I. She met this singer-songwriter, Bob Cheevers. They got married. In the spring of 72, they came back here just for a visit to stay the summer. And, of course, she connected Dave and I with Bob, and we started singing together. He got some local gigs, Rap's Pizza Train in Bloomington, and some other things, coffee house stuff. And Dave and I would join him for a few numbers. And then John Sisson introduced us to Paul Pell, so we started jamming back behind what is now the Sweetwater Gallery, the old Grasshopper Flats, where Don Stouffer, the oldest of the Stouffer kids, had a shop there. And there was just a lot in the back. We'd have jams on Sunday nights through that summer. Kenny Apparilla was walking down the street with his fiddle in his hand. They auditioned, he and a lady had auditioned at the Old Hickory, which is now the Ordinary, and got turned down because they were too folky. They wanted country. And I saw Kenny, and I yelled at him. I said, "Hey, remember me?" And he said, "Yeah." I said, "Come and join us." And so Paul and Dave and I and Kenny started jamming together, and we thought, well, let's try and get some gigs. So we went back to the Old Hickory where he was turned down and got the job. And that was the start of the Stringbean String Band in September of '72.
Back in the late 70s, one thing led to another, and two Brown County boys ended up in California. Let's pick up the story from there.
Well, we were going to do an album's worth of material and then sell it rather than just a demo of 2 or 3 songs. So we did. We went into a 24-track studio and recorded 10 songs initially, put the whole package together for an album, and those recordings went out to various record companies. We had a couple of near misses, but just didn't happen.
You had a benefactor that foot the bill for the whole thing.
Bruce McConnell, who was quite well-to-do, took a liking to the band when we were playing the Indianapolis circuit and decided, and we'd already been out on the road a lot for about 3 years as well. He said, let's go out to California and let's get a record deal. And he paid for the whole thing, took us all out there, girlfriends and wives. Bob Lucas brought his little boy, of course. So we went at it. We ended up doing some work around the San Francisco area, a few things here and there in L.A. A lot of time, if we weren't in the studio, where we were just twiddling our thumbs, and everybody was getting real antsy. But Bruce was out there trying to sell us, and it just didn't quite happen. But the experience was incredible. Studio time that we put in, I mean...
It was a great opportunity.
Our skills as recording people, we just went so many levels.
Wasn't that in the era of the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band? And didn't you guys perform with them once?
We did. We did a festival in Indianapolis with them and the Dillards and John Hartford and John Stewart. We were doing that kind of music was really big. Will the Circle Be Unbroken that the Dirt Band did it, that was really a big influence on us. And those kind of songs are what we started doing initially. Then the originals started happening. Things started rocking a little bit. We added a drummer. And then by the time we got to California, we were country rock, basically, with a fiddle and banjo.
Who would write most of the songs?
I did. Dave wrote this one great song that we'll hear. I wrote, along with Kenny Apparilla, who was one of the guys in the band, and I wrote several songs together. We did a few things that I wrote by myself. And then when Bob Lucas joined the band, we had a whole bunch of material from him. And he was with us when we did all those recordings at Indigo Ranch, the studio there. So we were chasing the L.A. dream. Played the Troubadour, played all kinds of places in San Francisco. It was an experience.
And through it all, here you are in Brown County.
A better place to be.
A better place to be. Do you guys still perform together?
We haven't in a while. It's been a couple of years since we've done a duo thing. We had a trio with a lady named Stephanie Cooper called the
Vocal Yokels.
Yeah, Vocal Yokels.
And then all the years that you guys performed with Slats Klug.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And we, whenever Bob Cheevers comes to town, which is about once a year, he didn't come last year because he's doing this big tour in the UK. We usually set in with him. He'll do maybe a 3-day gig at the Brown County Inn.
Yeah.
And we'll go down and set in with him and play.
We did a show at the Playhouse it was about 5 years ago now, or 4 years ago. We played together with Frank Jones on New Year's Eve.
Oh yeah.
So we get together and play.
Well, again, thank you so much, guys, for coming in. Looking forward to hearing your music.
Been a pleasure.
We're going to do a song from The Liar's Bench by Slats Klug and Steve Miller.
It's off the first Slats Klug and Friends CD that we did back in 1998.
Yep, The Liar's Bench. It's called A Good Way to Die. back now. Skipping along, backwoods run, steered by the breeze, and talking to the sun, humming a tune, nobody telling me how. This living is easier now. Telling these lies that have to be told. Whistle my tune, ain't gonna feel old. Plenty of wood and a stash of moonshine. I found me a good way to die. I found me a good way to die. Pitching horseshoes and seeing my friends, spinning my tails, I'll do it again. Acting the fool, taking a bow. This living is easier now.
Now my stores are calling, I'm heading to town. Ready for winter, I'm hunkering down. Feeling so good, I don't want to know how. This living is easier now.
Telling these lies that have to be told. Whistle my tune, ain't gonna feel old. Plenty of wood and a stash of moonshine. I found me a good way to die. I found me a good way to die. A life of freedom like I never could. Just hunting the land and burning the wood and fishing for dinner or just fun. Anyhow, it's all that I'm gonna do now.
Vera has an interview with local artist Monique Cagle, and we'll hear another string bean tune, also written by Slats Klug, When the Sky Won't Rain.
Monique Cagle and I are in her studio today, looking out the window at our marvelous spring. Long time coming.
Yes, finally, it's here, and it's lush and green, and glad it's here.
It's interesting to note that on our first interview together, it was just 3 years ago, April 21st, 2015. Since then, you have completed the Grain Bin Art Studio project.
Yes.
It must feel very gratifying.
It still seems a little unreal. I have to pinch myself sometimes when I come out here to know that I have this beautiful place to work in, and I can never be grumpy or in a bad mood or anything because I come out here and I look up at the ceiling and it's so beautiful, and I think about all the people that helped this dream come true, and it's really wonderful.
After spending years of fundraising, how long was the actual construction?
I'm not sure exactly. I want to say probably about a year. How it started out was with Chris Todd and his building trades class were going to take it on as a project, and they started it. They put in my subfloor, they cut out a hole for the front door, and they roughed in some of the electrical work. And then Chris decided he was going to retire. And the school said, well, if you're retiring, we're going to drop the program. And I was literally left hanging with a hole in the side of my building and no idea what I was going to do. So I panicked for a while, and I started talking to a lot of people. And Brown County is just filled with some really amazing craftspeople. And we ended up getting Rob Mills to come out and help us. And he is just such an amazing person, and he's so patient. He could only work on it on Saturday mornings because he had a regular project to work on during the week. So he would come out and work for about 5 hours, and my husband and I would help him. And basically the three of us got the job done, but we could never have done it without Rob. And we did hire somebody to do the drywall, and we hired somebody to do the electrical, but everything else we did ourselves.
You have a very strong presence on Facebook.
Uh-oh.
How do you rationalize the time spent on social media? What does it do for you?
It keeps me connected with people. Some people I haven't connected with in years that I went to school with that I've now reconnected with. I get to see what other people are doing. A lot of my artist friends are on there, and I think we feed off of each other's creativity. And it was through Facebook that I was able to promote the idea of my grain bin studio, and it got a lot of attention and it received a lot of support. And so I like to continue putting things out there that are updates and letting people know what I'm working on, because I think that they've kind of earned that. If they've helped me out in building this place, that they should get to know what's going on in here.
Yes. Well, and besides, you have an eye for nature.
I love nature.
And you like to inspire other people to look at it as well.
I think so, yeah. I know I make these little stuffed animals too, and I make these little mice, and I create stories around them and characters, and I make little outfits for them. And somebody commented and said, because I've gotten to know your mice, I'm now having more sympathy for the real mice that are living in my studio.
Or my house.
Right, exactly. It gives everything a little bit of personality.
With your multifaceted artwork, how do you decide what to work on next or any given day?
I think it's kind of whatever I'm in the mood for, and because I also do this to make my living and I sell things through some of the galleries, I have to think, okay, I'm getting low on paintings, so I should sit down and paint for a while. Or sometimes I just get tired of something, like I've been sewing for weeks, so now I want to take a break from sewing and I'll go make jewelry for a while, so that way I never get tired of doing anything.
From your thoughts over time, what are some of your role model artists?
I'm a big fan of the Impressionist painters. I also like Georgia O'Keeffe. And then there are local people that I am friends with, like Tom and Judy Pritchard, who were potters who have since retired, and my friend Amy Greeley, who makes jewelry, and Rosie Bolte, who does gourd art, and Dixie Ferrer. Nancy Maxwell is another painter. All these people have inspired me, and some of them have acted as mentors, and some of them I just really admire their work ethic or their artwork. And there's just something about the community in Brown County with all the artists that it's very nurturing.
So, talking about the artist community, what involvement have you found to be inspiring? Do you belong to any of the groups?
The one that I'm probably most involved with is the Brown County Backroads Studio Tour, which takes place the whole month of October. It's a free self-guided tour.
Your neighborhood has undergone dramatic changes recently.
Yes.
What are your feelings about that now?
I have mixed feelings about it. I think that what they did to Yellowwood Road was overkill, and I think a lot of it was unnecessary. And ironically enough, this spring we still had water over the road when it rained a lot. So almost $7 million spent on a road to keep it from flooding, and it still had water over the road in the spring. So what do you think of the studio?
I think it's also wonderful, and it's a lot of stuff to look at one time.
It's just a place that's full of energy and love and a little bit of magic thrown in.
Okay, we're going to do a song now, another Slats Klug song from My Brown County Home, the second CD that we did, all about neighbors helping neighbors. It's called When the Sky Won't Rain. Heard your well ran dry, and you lost your crop. Still the clouds roll by, without a single drop. You wonder is your farm a world of work in vain? In a hot, dry spell, you can dip my well when the sky won't rain. Mother Nature flows in a deep, cool spring. She's a wild red rose, she's an evergreen. So in a drought we drink from buckets on a chain. In a hot, dry spell, you can dip my well when the sky won't rain. Feel it in my bones, smell it in the wind, hear the coyote moan, storm is rolling in, like a long downpour. Wash away your pain when you call my name. In a hot, dry spell, you can dip my well when the sky won't rain.
than what I swear. And I ask you, friend, can I do the same? In a hot, dry spell, you can dip my well when the sky won't rain. Feel it in my bones, smell it in the wind, hear the coyote moan, storm is rolling in, like a long downpour, wash away your pain when you call my name. In a hot, dry spell, you can dip my well when the sky won't rain. In a hot, dry spell, you can dip my well when the sky won't rain.
Jim Eagleman shares the Crawdad tale and will close this segment with the Dickie Jones song performed by Robbie Bowden and Dave Gore.
You get a line, I get a pole, honey. You get a line, I get a pole, babe. You get a line, I get a pole. We'll all go down to the crawdad hole. Honey, oh baby mine. Now when I was a boy, well, we'd go fishing. But it wouldn't always be fish that we'd go fishing for. We'd go down by the bridge where the river flowed, our old swimming hole, and nobody knowed that we'd be fishing for them crawdads. Now these critters, they build themselves a home along the river, and they build up a little mud mound by their front door. They sit there and wait and make pretend that I thought we could catch us maybe 8 or 10 and take 'em home and boil 'em up for our supper. So we had a plan worked out where we'd sneak up behind 'em and scare 'em out in a big old gunny sack. So my friend got on one side, I got on the other. He held the sack, and I started into hollering. Well, them crawdads, they run on down to the water. And my friend was getting us a supper. But they got them pinchers, and they go to grabbing. I turned around, and my friend had it, 'cause there was one of them crawdads hanging on the end of his nose. Now, crawdads are really good eating, and that's the truth. But there are some that don't like it. They say it's uncouth. But them that don't like it, they ain't really tried it. It'll make a good supper. There ain't no denying it. Why don't you try it sometime? Crawdads for supper. You get a line, I get a pole, honey. You get a line, I get a pole, babe. You get a line, I get a pole. We'll all go down to the crawdad hole. Honey, oh baby mine. Years ago, when enrolled at Western Illinois University, I took a summer school class at Kibbe Life Science Field Station, located on the Mississippi between Hamilton and Warsaw, Illinois. Kibbe afforded us wildlife students plenty of outdoor places to study and roam. Classes were an exceptional opportunity for total immersion into the natural history of the river. I believe my professors also liked the change of teaching environments, from formal classroom to the outdoors. An ichthyology class every morning met early on the river to shock for fish. We traveled in 3 John boats equipped with electric generators and tubs to hold the fish that were stunned with 2 electrodes dangling out in front of the boats. Students took turns netting the big fish that wiggled out of the water. Back at Kibbe, we keyed out strange-looking suckers, paddlefish, gars, and sturgeon. Hot July days with high humidity make us anxious to get off the river by mid-morning. Back on campus, my little bluegrass band took a brief hiatus that summer. Everyone worked to make money for the following academic year. But I still had time to practice in the evenings and sought out quiet places so as not to disturb my classmates. And from the many crayfish accidentally netted in class, it brought to mind a traditional folk tune, and I scribbled down some verses to go with the chorus you just heard. I wanted a tune to describe how crayfish, also called crawdads, crawfish, crawldads, mountain lobsters, or yabbies, how they could be boiled and eaten. Some of the commercial fishermen we met in class supplemented their catch with crayfish. One fellow invited the class over to his home one evening to show us how he boiled and shucked them. It took a lot to make a meal, I recall, and we laughed at the term freshwater lobster. Everyone agreed you had to use your imagination. Instead of butter, we dipped the little bodies of crayfish in saucers of ketchup. So how could I tell the story of eating crawdads? The professor remarked that crawdads are eaten all over the world, and like other edible crustaceans, only a small portion of the body is edible. We saw them typically swim backwards to avoid capture when in creeks at Kibbe and in small streams that flowed into the Mississippi. Their mud tunnels, made from little rolled-up mud clumps, could be seen everywhere on the Kibbe floodplain. Picking one up, the claws extended outward and can pinch, so we grabbed them on the body behind the head. They have 4 pairs of walking legs and little swimmerettes that look like more legs underneath the abdomen. They have both long and short antennae. In high school biology class, I recall we dissected a rather anemic-looking crayfish, a step up on the evolutionary scale from the primitive earthworm. We learned over half of more than 500 species occur in North America. A good sign of fresh water, some can live in salt or brackish water. A friend kept a few in his aquarium and showed us the shell or exoskeleton that was shed as the crayfish grew. Back on campus for the fall term, my bandmates and I shared tunes that we had learned or written during the summer. Working on the vocals and harmonies, my crawdad tune was a hit when we played a bar near the Kibbe station one night, the patrons living along the river affectionately calling themselves river rats. In the ichthyology classroom, large glass jars held the fish we captured for reference and further study. A bubbling tank in the corner held a few of the crayfish we caught in class, and I smiled as I watched them slowly move on the gravel bottom. "Nice crayfish," I said to the professor. He says, "Yeah, they're neat, aren't they?" "I like them a lot," he said. I didn't know whether he meant eating them or just watching them. Nature Ramblings, WFHB FM Radio, the Brown County Hour. This is Jim Eagleman. Thanks for listening.
Okay, this song was written by the late, great Dickie Jones. We lost him this last spring. Great songwriter, a really funny guy, the brother of Frank Snuth Jones. This is a great song. Dickie wrote this when he was like 16 years old, and I heard it just after he'd written it. Frank played it for me, and I loved it, and we've been doing it ever since.
And it's a good song for Brown County.
It sure is. It's called Down Home Folks. 1, 2, 3.
We pause for station identification.
You are listening to the Brown County Hour on volunteer-powered community radio, WFHB at 100.7 in Brown County, 91.3 and 98.1 in Bloomington, 106.3 in Ellettsville, and online at WFHB.org.
Support for the Brown County Hour comes from the Indiana State Fingerstyle Guitar Festival at the Brown County Playhouse, featuring award-winning acoustic guitarists from all over the world on July 28th. Tickets and information available at indianastringfest.com. We'll begin segment 2 with an interview with Dave Bartlett, followed by a Stringbean tune, Back to Paradise.
It's my pleasure to have Dave Bartlett in our studio this evening. Dave has served the citizens of Brown County for many years now as the director of the CRC, and we're just going to have a little reminiscent conversation about his years of dedication and the many lives that have been improved and impacted by the great service that this entity performs. Welcome, Dave.
Well, thank you for having me back here.
Well, the last time we had you back, you had a brand new album in production. Lead Your Life by a Song.
That is correct.
Yeah, and we were in exile. They were building this building.
This is very deluxe.
This is very deluxe. Anyway, when did you become director of the Community Resource Center?
It was May 1st of 2010. Basically, the mission of the CRC is to provide educational opportunities and job-related services for the community with the interest of improving people's income ability, but also their quality of life. And then beyond that is the benefit for the family, ultimately for the community. What they hope is that it is then has an intergenerational transfer.
And at the end of June, you are officially retiring. Is that correct?
That is correct. So it's been quite a journey. I've spent the last 10 years of my career working right here in my community that I've lived in for 44 years now.
Aside from all of the wonderful things that the CRC provides the community, there was actually a referendum in which the community had to vote to increase their own taxes to support this entity. And, you know, I think that speaks volumes to how valued this is in our community.
Yeah, it does. I mean, I think it's a real feather in the cap for the community. But at the time that took place, so 2010, the CRC started in May of 2002. So it had been around for a while and was funded by a Lilly Cape grant. And really the way that I look at it at that point, it was a project. It was a very well-funded project. I mean, it brought $6 million into the community and provide the opportunities that it did. But I think that what really sold the idea of why the community would continue to support it was because it had touched so many people's lives that people knew of someone who had been affected by it. And I think that was what brought the support to it. Because to my knowledge, the CRC is the only Lilly Cape grant, and there were several around the state, that the project is still in existence, supported by the community.
Ah, well, that's excellent. Do you have any idea how many people the CRC has served over the years?
Well, especially with Lilly, there was a report that was due every 6 months, and so we had to keep tabs on it. And I've actually got some of the final numbers. Now, these are numbers that are people that completed programs.
Right.
The database, the last time that we checked it, there were over 5,000 people that had used some type of CRC service, and actually that goes back quite a ways, so I'm sure it's more than that. But we only report the numbers really now of who have completed the programs. And they might have taken a computer class, or there's a number of different kind of continuing studies classes that we've had there. So I have a few of those numbers here. Of the college degrees that we can verify, there were 512 people that completed it. Most of those, better than half of them, were either registered or licensed practicing nurses. We have 570 high school equivalencies. And then we've had another 256 certified nursing assistants, several electricians, and so on and so forth. So really what you're talking about is if you combine all of those numbers, it's close to 1,500 people that actually completed some type of educational credentialing there. And that's over a 16-year period, starting in 2002.
That's tremendous. and I know a few of the nurses, and I know a few of the electricians. This is a program that actually touches people that we know in our community. This is access to real jobs, and that's big in Brown County because there's just not that many real jobs here.
No, I mean, the workforce in Brown County is approximately 7,500 people. So as you can see, if that was 1,500 people, that's essentially, a fifth, 20% of roughly of what the total workforce would be. Now, whether or not they're all working in Brown County, tracking employment from these things is a very difficult task.
Well, I think it would be safe to assume that if you're a nurse working in Columbus and still living in Brown County, that Brown County ultimately gets the benefit of that.
Right. And I was that part of that population myself. I worked in Bloomington for about 25 years. So,
sure.
But it's really been an honor and really great way to finish out my career to be right here in Brown County. That's really exciting.
I love that it's sort of hand in hand with the Community Foundation as well. And, I consider both these groups to be game changers for us. I mean, before these entities existed, you were pretty much on your own in Brown County. And the CRC has just done a tremendous job of opening doors and providing opportunities and broadening horizons for, well, like you say, a minimum of 1,500 people.
And with the Community Foundation, I mean, they've been a partner from the beginning. And a lot of that, too, I don't know if people actually realize it, but Lilly is an incredible philanthropic organization. Their endowment is in all 92 counties of Indiana. And not only are they there in the form of the community foundations, but they've also established the entire infrastructure to help support it and maximize their impact. I mean, I don't know of any other state that has someone of that magnitude that has looked after a state like that. And in the case of the CRC, I think it was well spent in that the community has embraced the organization to continue it on for, the very long-term foreseeable future. So, they invested well in Brown County.
What are you going to do? You're going to retire. I think we had a little conversation about the next album, perhaps.
Well, yeah, I certainly have some ideas for kind of a second musical project. But I want to point out something before we move on too much. One of my working colleagues, Sue Dillon, is retiring also with me. Sue has been there from the beginning, and Sue is the primary architect of these programs. And her connections with Ivy Tech Columbus and with adult education and workforce development, in large part, I think, is the most singular, significant factor in the success of the CRC.
Well, thank you from the people of Brown County. It's been quite an effort, and you have shepherded this organization and helped it grow and made it independent.
Well, thank you very much.
Call me a cowboy instead of my name. Saddle up my horse before sunrise. Leave you today, broken fences I got to mend. Love you tonight at your home on the range. The only game in town, thought I'd hang around. Let you take me down the open road. Took me all the way. Please take me there again. When can we go? Oh, take me back to paradise. Right on down the road. Right on down the road. Right on down the road. You take the city, give me country road. I need a nice down home feeling. You pay the price, yes, and me, I'll take it slow and easy. Sometimes I feel like I've been stealing from you. Only game in town, thought I'd hang around. Let you take me down the open road. Took me all the way. Please take me there again, mama. When can we go? Oh, take me back to paradise. Right on down the road. Right on down the road. Right on down the road. Take it on down now, picker. to the graveyard when I'm done for. Bury me down close to the water. Don't leave me laying near their tombstones. I'm unknown city. I'd rather rot down by the river. Only game in town. I thought I'd hang around. I bet you take me down the open road. Took me all the way. Please take me there again, honey. When can we go? Oh, take me back to paradise, right on down the road. Oh, take me back to paradise, right on down the road. Oh, take me back to paradise, right on down the road.
Hi, I'm Loretta Vinson, and this is my This Old Guitar Story. This is a story of a 9-string guitar that I purchased in summer of 1980. I bought it to replace my Ovation, which was taken in a home burglary. Also taken was my roommate's Dixon Dove copy, a huge Pioneer stereo system on loan from a friend in the military, and a glass jug holding about $300 in coins. Homeowner's insurance paid enough for me to head to Tom Pickett's Music to shop for a much-needed new friend. Tom listened to my sad tale and was eager to show his newest arrival. He handed me the model DY58 Iari 9-string dreadnought. Handmade by the elite branch of Alvarez, the model was endorsed by Steve Howe, the lead guitarist of the band Yes, according to Tom. The guitar is strung like a 12-string, but the 3 bass strings are left single. I like that feature since I often play fingerstyle with a thumb pick. I could dig into the bass strings without hitting octave strings, but still enjoy the jangly ring from double G, B, and E strings. After 30 minutes of playing, I was hooked. I quickly adjusted to the extra strings. I also got used to the puzzled expressions of observers. 9 strings, they would ask. It was a fun guitar, and I really enjoyed it. But I also miss my old Ovation. We'd been through a lot together. After about 2 months, I got a call from the police department. My stolen Ovation, my roommate's guitar, and the stereo had been miraculously retrieved. As it turned out, 3 high school boys had made the heist by entering through a tiny greenhouse window, then carrying the goods through a field to their car parked on Highway 46. Dozens of passers-by must have witnessed the crime, but no one reported it. Apparently, one of the thieves was unhappy with the guitar he ended up with and basically ratted on the other. 2 of the thieves were brothers, gymnasts, and honor students. The brothers wrapped the stereo equipment in plastic and buried it in their yard. The story was that they were hiding it until they could take it to their dorm room in the fall. The obvious question here is, where were the parents? By God's grace, it had been a dry summer, and the detectives resurrected the stereo bundles hours before it rained. The guitars had not been buried and checked out okay. The stereo did also, but unfortunately, Pink Floyd's The Wall was left on the turntable. To this day, I can't hear that song without thinking of those conniving brats. So, united with the Ovation, I enjoyed 2 guitars for many years. In 1993, I decided to trade the Iari, along with a 6-string banjo, for a Taylor 512. Since I hadn't been playing the 9-string much, it didn't bother me at the time, but I did eventually experience seller's remorse. Before the internet, there was no way to search for another 9-string. I had never seen another, and there weren't many of them made. 25 years later, I was browsing a local vintage stereo shop, and there in a corner was a Iari 9-string. The proprietor, Eugene, was impressed as I was the first person to know its significance and rarity. The guitar appeared to have known some hard years, but aside from a bridge pin issue, the neck was true and tight, and fretwear minimal. I told Eugene the story of the burglary, then I gave the Iari a good strumming. We agreed there was something serendipitous going on, and we wondered if this could be my old friend. I fought the temptation to buy, using the excuse it had no case. And that didn't last because a case came along shortly after. It seemed the universe wanted me to purchase or perhaps repurchase this ERE 9-string. And so it was. I decided to name her Nina. After hours of cleaning sticky nicotine residue from the tuning keys, I took her to my luthier for a good going-over. He had only seen one such guitar, and it was owned by, as he put it, a real character, and that would explain the cigarette tar. A few small repairs and setup, and she's a smooth player and sounds great. For a while I was digging around for the history of Nina and the possibility that she could be my old Yari. Then I found a photo from the 80s of myself playing the 9-string. For a while I was digging around for the history of Nina and the possibility that she may be my old Yari. Then I found a photo from the 80s of myself playing the 9-string. I was standing up. Nina has no strap button on the neck, nor trace of any. The mystery is solved. Nina may have been the smoker's guitar, and mine must still be out there somewhere being loved, I hope. So, this is a story of two ERE 9-string guitars. For an odd guitar, I wonder what the odds are that I've had two. And so it was that I found them, or should I say, they found me.
I've been thinking about our water situation, and a couple of quotes came to mind. Water is the essence of life. It could also be said that water is essential for life. But here's the one that's a little closer to home. When you ain't got water, there ain't nothing else. The reason these thoughts have been on my mind is because our upper cistern tank was accidentally contaminated. Becky pumped the water from the lower cistern tanks into the upper tank, where it's then pumped into the house. She didn't know it at the time, but when she drained those tanks, what we call snail water contaminated the water in the big tank. We define snail water as nasty dregs filled with undesirable substances too horrible to describe that has a foul, permeable stench reeking to be damned. I believe that the source of this contamination was the accumulation of tree catkins in one of the gravel filters that's next to the kitchen. When the concrete lid was removed, there was a 2 to 3 inch layer of compost on top of the gravel, with all kinds of life forms having a field day. My wife and I live a few miles from the water line, and we have to provide our own if we want to live here. When we built the house over 30 years ago, one of our great concerns was how to obtain water for drinking and our household use. We consulted with a drilling operation, and they sent a dowser, also known as a water witch. He had an ash divining rod, and after he walked the grounds, his fork stick twitched and pointed to a specific location in the yard. He said, "The rod says this will be a good place to drill." So, on the basis of this bit of magic, we decided to give it a try. 200 feet later, at $10 a foot, we hit a small amount of water so acrid that it was unusable. I should have tried to light it on fire, because we might be rich and don't even know it. Dean Walker did the excavation for our house, and he recommended that we install a cistern. He helped me set it up, and when the work was done, we had a 5,000-gallon concrete tank connected to the downspouts on our house. The way the system works is this. The rain falls from the sky and lands on our roof, where it's transported by the gutters to the gravel filter that's made out of a section of 2-foot culvert pipe. This filter has a concrete floor with a 4-inch pipe at the bottom that gravity feeds the rainwater into the cistern. The water is filled with round glaciated gravel in random sizes that keep the particulates out of the water. The custom-made lids fit precisely on top of the filter to help keep the critters out. The lids also have a 4-inch PVC fitting that connects them to the downspout. As the system has evolved, we've added a series of water filters in the house, and when everything is working right, we have wonderfully fresh water. The first tank worked so well that a few years later we decided to add 3 1,500-gallon tanks that are located downhill from the big one. The lower tanks are set level to each other, and they're plumbed together so that they all fill at the same time. When the upper tank runs low, we pump the water from the lower tanks to refill the upper one. By having this much storage, in an average year, we have plenty of water. Rainwater is filthy, and dirt and tree debris accumulate on the roof, so every couple of years we have to clean all 4 of the tanks to protect the integrity of the water. We also have to clean the gravel filters. Over the years, we've sought better and easier methods to do this job. Electric pumps help, as does the pressure washer. But up until now, there was no way to avoid getting into the tanks, shoveling the muck into 5-gallon buckets that were then hauled out and dumped, and then sponging the rest of it out from the floor. Knowing this task was coming up, I did some research, and I found a muck vacuum from a pond supply company. After a long conversation with the tech guy, we decided to order one. We've been having this heat wave, and it was hotter than blazes the day we cleaned the lower tanks, with humidity so thick mosquitoes could breed in the air. Becky arrived from town, put her rubber boots on, and went to work. The fancy wet vac worked beautifully. In combination with a pressure washer, what was a 2.5-hour task took 45 minutes. The temperature inside the tank is about 60 degrees. And if the smell was better, it would be almost like playing in the sprinkler. She triumphantly went from one tank to the next and even revisited the first tank for a final rinse. The lower tanks are clean, and we're ready for the rain to fall. We've had a lot of rain these last few weeks, and we're hoping this continues. There's a general rule of thumb that goes something like this. If you want it to rain, wash your car. If you don't want it to rain, clean your cisterns. Maybe one will supersede the other. This is Dave Seastrom. See you next time.
This is Bruce Klug with WFHB's Brown County Hour. And as our guest, we're fortunate to have 3 of the original members of the Stringbean String Band, Dave Gore, Robbie Bowden, Paul Pell, and we're missing one member.
Kenny Aprilla, he lives in California.
Couldn't make it
Tonight?
this evening.
We can understand that.
Had to work
They're
late.
working on the road, and he said he didn't want to.
It's really good to see you guys back together again.
Robbie and I have been singing together probably since we were in practically grade school.
Early high school, yeah.
Yeah, we used to get together. There's a little bar over here on the corner called the Pine Room, which is not there anymore. It's out in Salt Creek Park, but we used to sneak in there and listen to country music on the jukebox and got a lot of influence from that, and probably a little spillover from Bean Blossom and the Bluegrass boys up there too.
Did it influence your music at all, the concerts?
I think a little bit. Yeah, we used to go up to the Jamboree, and I went for years. I'd usually sneak in and
Me too.
Climb over the fence.
Climb over this barbed wire
and go in and listen to the bands. When the old barn was up close to the road, we used to go to that. That was a lot of fun.
Dave's brother Steve used to play bluegrass music with Marvin Hedrick and the Weed Patch Boys.
The Weed Patch Boys. They were, an old bluegrass band from here in Nashville back in the 50s.
And I'd like to thank our guests once again, Dave Gore, Robbie Bowden, Paul Pell. Thanks, guys, for coming in.
Thank you.
It's been great fun.
Our pleasure.
Lovers with unending smiles, they would walk with you for miles, just because they like your style. What am I to say? But it wouldn't really matter right now why it's like this or even how. I'll just take another bow. It'll happen anyway. So we go from high to low, always asking for a reason. But it's not you who changes, you know, it's the passing of the season. Wishful thinkers sometimes say things will surely work out someday. It'll happen anyway. Just give me one more day. But it's not you who changes, you know, it's the passing of the season. Lovers with unending smiles, they would walk with you for miles, just because they like your style. What am I to say?
Thanks for tuning in to episode 76 of the Brown County Hour, recorded in our studio at the History Center here in downtown Nashville, and brought to you the first Sunday of every month at 9 a.m. and the following Wednesday at 6 p.m.
The Brown County Hour is brought to you by a diverse group of folks who believe now, more than ever, the world is for everyone.
This show was produced by
Chuck Wills,
Pam Rader,
Rick Fettig,
Vera Grubbs,
Carrie Ray,
and Dave Seastrom. We would also like to thank Slats, Klug for our theme music. You have been listening to the Brown County Hour,
coming to you from deep in the woods of Brown County, Indiana.
Celebrating the arts, culture, and nature that make this such a unique community.
Visit us online at browncountyhour.com.
The Brown County Hour is a production of WFHB.
Volunteer-powered, listener-supported community radio for South Central Indiana.
Take me back to my old Brown County home.